Hello and welcome to a special edition of the B-Side for International Women's Day. My name is Maysa Daw and I am your host. And I first want to start out by saying thank you to all our contributors and viewers who make this possible. We run solely on donations. We take no corporate or commercial dollars. And so this amazing interview that I am so proud to be a part of comes to you from you. So please continue to donate and help us out. Now, Maysa Daw is from Palestine. She's an activist, actress, musician of many different genres, and is making a huge impact on that part of the world and has incredible things to say. This is a rather long episode, but to tell you the truth, I cut almost nothing out of our conversation because it was so incredible. I hope that you'll take the time to watch it or listen to the podcast version of it. Either way, thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, welcome to the B-Side, and I'm so very pleased to have Maysa Daw on the show with us today, all the way from Palestine. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, happy to be here.
So this is part of the show for International Women's Day, and really I couldn't think of someone who is in such a great position, not only where you are globally, like literally your position globally, but your position in music in Palestine as a front runner to so many different things, right? You're doing film, you've done music in several different genres, you're working internationally with women from all over the world, and then also working collaboratively with men in your music ventures, which in itself is something extraordinary. So I'm so pleased to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us what's happening with you, and let's maybe catch up a little bit. We saw each other in England at the WOMAD Festival, but what's been going on since then?
Well, a lot has been going on since then, actually. Well, as you said, I've been doing music in different genres, and at the moment I have 3 different bands. One of them is my solo project that I was with in WOMAD, and one of them is the international group, which is called Kalimi, and we are 4 women, and 2 of us are Palestinians, 1 is Dominican Republic, and 1 is Swiss, half Swiss, half Palestinian. And that project happened without, we didn't even start it. We were invited to collaborate on a project. Happen. And other than that, I am also, a few years back, I joined DAM, and DAM is the first Palestinian hip-hop and among the first to do hip-hop in Arabic in the Middle East. Probably the first in the Middle East, but among the first in Arabic, in the Arab world in general. And it's been really interesting having these really different experiences. One with them is like how you said, is working with men, where I'm the only woman. and then Kallimi, which is definitely was a very new thing for me to work only with women, because I'm generally like usually I'm the only woman or one of two women between uh, the rest of the men that are working with us, you know. So
Right.
it's been definitely interesting. We just released an album with Dam. We released it in June, and I've been working since, writing new music, doing new things, traveling, performing.
So tell me, I'm interested in how hip hop evolved and how you all became aware of hip hop, because I'm old. I just turned 49 the other day, so I'm old enough to have experienced hip hop in the way that we'd get these little cassette tapes that had made their way. I'm in Arizona, so they had like made their way all the way from the East Coast mostly, and they had been copied so many times. By the time they got to us, they were like barely audible, right? But it was like so exciting because it was like this. There was no internet, you know, so it was like this thing that we're sharing collaboratively as it traveled across the U.S. And it was like this being part of this secret society almost, you know. Oh, we got this tape, you know, and then so you had to always buy the tape deck that had the two, so you could make your copy and then pass on another one. But you always wanted to pass on the copy that you'd made, because that one was a little bit less good than the one that, you know, came to you. So so how did hip hop sort of evolve in Palestine?
In that sense of the cassettes and all of that, I'm pretty young. I was not aware of hip hop when that was still happening. But the guys the way that they talk about it. Well, Tamer, Mahmoud, and Suhail, they are the founders of DAM, and the three of them come from Led, and Led is probably the most problematic city. It's a Palestinian city, but it is inside the Israeli borders, and it has both Jews and Palestinians living in. And when Tupac was rapping and Biggie Smalls were rapping, and you would see them on TV, and they did get the cassettes that arrived like really later on. And when they saw the video clips, the way that they described it, they felt that it's very, very similar to their neighborhoods, because Led is one of the most difficult places. It has a lot of drug problems. It has a lot of violence, a lot of shooting. And they felt really related to that. And that's how they started doing hip hop around in 1999. They did hip hop in Hebrew as well, actually. And then they started doing that in Arabic. And that's how pretty much like Arabic hip hop in the Middle East started developing. And since then, it came a long way. I was introduced to hip hop later on. I was still very young at that age, and I actually really, really got into hip hop. Like, I used to listen to Dam my whole life. I practically grew up on Dam's songs and Dam's music. I knew all the lyrics by heart. But other than that, I didn't know any hip hop. Like, I knew Linkin Park that does rapping in their songs, but I didn't really know hip hop. Like, I wasn't too much into it. And then I joined Dam and I started rapping for the first time of my life. But since then, the scene has become so much bigger, a lot wider as well. You know, it started like more hardcore, old school hip hop, and now you find all types of hip hop, from hip hop to trap to, you know, mainstream hip hop, hardcore hip hop, whatever you can think of.
How has it worked? And I know you and I talked a little bit about the problem that you mostly face there is management and sort of somebody who can organize that the music movement there. How do you distribute then? How do you try to get airtime? Is it possible to get airtime? And before I forget this question, what is the importance of rapping in Arabic rather than in Hebrew, as far as I mean, to me that seems obvious, but maybe it's not.
I think, first of all, yeah, it's still very hard here because we have a lot of amazing musicians and a lot of amazing artists, but we're really lacking management and booking agencies and labels. We don't really have all of that. We have people that work in that, but they pretty much do everything together. So there's no like really big names or companies that do that. But this is happening. A lot of things are developing in the scene. There's the PMX festival, the Palestinian Music Expo, which opened the door for a lot of that.
And when is that?
It it happens. It used to happen every year in April for 3 years straight. This year it's gonna be in September. And what happens there? This happens in Ramallah, and what they do, the concept of it is bringing Palestinian musicians, putting them on stage, and doing like an expo where they bring people from the international music industry to come and see and hear the music and see the live shows. So last year there was like about, I think, 72 delegates from like the biggest names around. Brian Eno was there. I'm not sure if the last year or the year before that. You have people from Sony Music, from Spotify, from big agencies and labels and booking agencies, and it's been really crazy. And it's one of the most important things that happened to Palestinian artists. And that opened the door also as well for people that are interested in working in management and booking to be able to learn more about that as well. And about the rapping in Arabic rather than rapping in a different language, I think for me it makes a lot more sense to rap in Arabic because the people that I want to talk to are Arab speaking people. And other than that, it's the language that I express myself best in because it's my mother tongue. And I don't see it. It has a lot of reasons, but for me, if I want to do a song in Hebrew or in English, the reason would be because I really want non-Arab speaking people to understand what I'm saying here. Other than that, it just makes a lot more sense for me for so many reasons to rap in Arabic because that's how I speak and that's the audience and the tribe that I like to have. Yeah.
I think it gives you a really, I mean, I don't speak Arabic, unfortunately, but I think it gives you a really interesting cadence as well. In the song that I want to talk about more too, Your Body of Theirs and Just Home. Am I saying that right?
Just home.
Yes.
Yes.
I was really enthralled with that. You sort of had like, it was almost like conversational in the beginning, and then subtly in the background, the drums start to get a little bit more intense. The whole vibe of the song starts to get really intense, and then you're just like spitting the lyrics just flying them at us. And I was like, oh my gosh, This is like so, it was like grabbing, It was like all of a sudden you're just like pulled in with the cadence that it gives you. And I think it had a lot to do with the language.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about this song, writing the song with the men and their support of this song. It's it's extremely daring.
Well, I would like to give a bit of a big answer. Writing that song started a lot before that, and this album, specifically Dam's album, has been such a huge and important journey for me because well, I'm going to start a little bit back. About a year and a half ago, I really felt that I'm lacking feminine energy in my life. And the moment I put that out, Kalimi happened and a lot of other things happened involving women. And that really helped me be more confident with myself and being aware of myself. And then we started working on the Dam's album. Now, Dam, they have been talking about women's rights and, equal rights for everybody and like really important social issues that we need to talk about. And I joined into that. And Dam was always, a men-dominated group. And I joined that and we started writing the album. And the whole album has a very huge sense of feminism in a way, because which is really interesting, because also Mahmoud and Tamer, my bandmates, they really helped me to be confident in myself as a woman. And because they always, they opened my eyes for so many things that I was not aware of. And we really talked deeply about these things. And there are songs in the album that has the sense of like feminine leadership and all of that, and which I would love to talk about more in a bit. But that song specifically, it was one of the last songs that we wrote in the album. And it was after this whole journey of, figuring out and knowing and all of that. And Tamir was reading a book called Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Do you know that?
I don't.
Do you know that book?
I don't know it.
It's a brilliant book. It's a very brilliant book. It's about an African-American man. He wrote the book for his son, who is a young Black kid in America. And the father talks about the difficulties of living in a Black body in the United States and how much of an influence that has. So Tamer just came to the studio the next day with copies for everybody. And he's like, yo, read this and see if it inspires something. And we started talking about that, and that where the inspiration of talking about the body came from. And it was a very big process of figuring out what I want to say and what they want to say as men as well, and put it all together. And we wrote that piece together. It was just, 3, 4, 5 meetings of discussing the subject until we reached the point of the song being as it is.
I at WOMAD, I also interviewed Jojo Abbott.
She's amazing.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen it, check out the interview with her on there. But she talked a lot about how I was asking her about skin. I'm half Native American too, so there's a conflict for me with my light skin color and my family background. My dad's really, really dark. My mom's white. But there's always that skin issue with me. But she, kind of like not fitting in on both sides thing. But she was talking about how her Black skin for a while and her feminine female body, people were always trying to tell her was a deficit in some way. And then she said, and then I came to realize that no, it was actually a blessing, because I can speak on those things. I'm here. Yes. I'm a strong person, and I have these things to give me the ability to speak on these subjects that are not spoken about enough. And
it's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of the thinking behind the song was about that. And it's about being, I'm Palestinian, but I live inside of the Israeli borders. I have an Israeli ID. I live in Haifa, where everything is very chill if you look at the rest of this crazy place. No direct war going on in this city specifically. And then I came into a world that is talking more about politics, and I was very privileged in a way, in a sense that until I was, 13 maybe, I didn't even know about the politics that is happening here. I had the privilege of not being aware of that. Wow. And then at the same time, I got into the world where I'm singing about this stuff, but still I always had that feeling of, okay, I'm singing as a Palestinian, but I hold the Israeli ID, and I can travel the world to places that Palestinians from the West Bank or from Gaza cannot travel to. And at the same time, I go to places, or like people would think that I'm not Palestinian because I don't look like it. And it's something that was very much there. And this song specifically, like I really believe that a lot of women can relate to this song. But from my experience, it's being a Palestinian woman, a musician, and living inside a woman's body, and as a Palestinian inside this Israeli borders, and being under the eyes of our own society and the way we treat women. And it's not only Arabs, because this is a worldwide problem. Like, sometimes you would see it more directly than other places, but all women, even, in the places that are said to be the most free or accepting, we're all under this constant mental or physical abuse and difficulties. And it was for me finding the way to relate into this place that was not always talked about, and into this idea that is not always talked about. And the way it felt for me that all of the time when we were talking about these issues, it would be in a way that we kind of ask permission, because we do want to be free, but still we're going under this, like we're walking through the social norms of, yeah, okay, you know what, I need to be free, but still I cannot talk about, I cannot show if I have armpit hair, or I cannot show if I'm a little too big. I want to be beautiful and I want to wear whatever I want, and I want to say that I am free, but still I would fit inside the norms. And this, for me, for the first time, felt that I'm owning up to what I'm saying. And it's owning up that, you know what, I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for the man's permission to give me my freedom or to give me my rights. I'm gonna own it, and it's gonna bring me a lot of shit, but I'm owning that as well, because I know that the only way that whatever I believe in and whatever I've been talking about my whole life, the only way that it could happen is by me doing it. And with that being said, I'm also very much aware that I am very privileged, because I can talk about these things, because I have a very supportive family, because I come from a place that is not as harsh and is not, it does not really, what's the word that does not really punish me for doing these things. Like, I get negative feedbacks and I get this and that, a lot of people talking, but that's nothing if you compare it to whatever other women might be doing just by, saying the simplest things. And for me, I just wanted to, just let it out, to express it, and to say, you know what, I don't wanna do that anymore. I wanna own it, and I wanna be it, and I want, and that's also the thing, because we're always like in the video, the two, Tamer and Mahmoud, are standing behind me, and I'm in the front. And that was, we actually talked about that, and it was very important for me, for them as well, but it was very important for me that they appear in the video, because first of all, it's damn songs, and I would never have been able to write this song alone the way it is, without their help, without their words, without their input. And that's what I wanted to say, in that this is not men vs women, or women vs men. We're not against each other. And when we're talking about it, also when we talk about it in a way of like feminism or whatever, we still say, how men can serve or how women can serve. And it's not about serving, it's about helping each other and lifting each other up. And I'm saying these words and I'm owning whatever I said, but I need them to be in my back, and they need to push me the way that I push them, because we're in this together. And if we don't do this together, then we don't do it, because it wouldn't be real. Because we need to reach a place where we respect women where we respect people as people, and not respect as a woman and respect as a man. The world where you look at a person and you see, okay, this person is cool, and not, oh, this girl or this woman is cool. And this is really what was very important for me to say. It's owning it, and being true about it. And the way that I see is true is not necessarily true for everybody. But the thing is, the main point is just being and letting other people be. Because there's no one way to do this. There's no one way to talk about it. It's just about accepting people as people.
That's really beautiful. You moved me to tears there in the middle of what you're saying. What do you think or you probably know, what is their background that they felt it important to speak out for women? Because that's certainly revolutionary in itself.
Yeah.
And dangerous in itself too. And I know that you all have been confronted with threats of violence at shows. People have threatened to tear apart the stage while you're performing with men on the stage. So that's not something to take lightly, and they certainly didn't have to, right? It's a much easier thing to say we're speaking up as Arabic men, we're speaking up we're speaking up for Arab rights, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
But going up even another level is very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna really be speaking in their names, but what I know is that when you're put in a place and you are open to a broader world, you see things that you were never aware of. And going back to what Jojo said about being privileged, or like feeling in a way that her black skin is kind of a privilege because she can see these things and talk about these things. And it's the same thing. It really feels similar, because I feel and we feel that we can talk about this and we can really feel it and not just view it and talk about it. And I think the reality that both of them came from is a very difficult reality, and it's not an easy thing, like you said, to be aware of these issues. And I think the moment they realized that, they felt kind of a responsibility to talk about it. And I think it's also, they realized from what they say that they really understood that it affects them as well. This whole, chauvinist world that we live in, and the way that we treat women and the way that we look at women. And I think, Dam has always been revolutionary, and Dam has always talked about subjects that are not usually talked about and that are not usually addressed. And I think that's the power of it, and that's the power of hip hop, and that's the power of Dam. And I really do respect them so much, and Suhail as well, which was one of the founders of Dam. And I really respect them so much, because it really is not easy to be aware of something that you don't constantly go through, or that you don't really feel. And that was something of the one of the interesting things that we went through when we were writing Just a Big Home, because there were sentences that I really wanted to talk about, like some ideas that I really wanted to talk about. And when we were writing them, the guys didn't really understand why I'm being so, no, I want to talk about this, we're not taking this one out. And some things they didn't really understand why I'm pushing so hard on talking to them about them. And when the song was out and we had women's point of view, they realized why it was so important to me to talk about this, because
What were those
there are things that I don't remember exactly, but I remember there are a lot of things that we talked about, and I would need to read it again. But there are definitely things that they didn't feel, or they didn't realize as men, although they're very aware of the situation and they have been talking about it since forever, since they started.
So tell me what, in a broader context, what the song means, how it is, how you want to use it as a message or part of a movement, and especially in the context of this day that we'll be airing this episode is going to be International Women's Day. So how does the song play to that?
For me, what is most important for me is that women and young girls that listen to this feel a little bit more confident about this, about themselves, because I know that this is the thing that I needed most when I was growing up. And it's really important for me when I was when we were writing this, in my mind I was addressing women the whole time. I was not addressing men, although in the lyrics we do address men in some places, but in my head I was always addressing women, because for me the most important part was, at the moment, is to make women and girls feel confident about themselves and tell them that it is okay to have some extra kilos, it's okay to have hair on your body, and it's okay to have stretch mark, and it's okay to have all of these things that we're usually very ashamed of. And talking about this story as being in a woman's body. And the way we talk about, we start with numbers. The song starts with numbers, and I say that these are the numbers, the measurements of your body and the way they're supposed to be.
90 60 90 175 على 50 90 صدر 60 خصر 90 فخاد 175 طول على 50 وزن. هدول مقاييس جسدك لازم يسموها جسدكهم. الكاف تعود إلك وجسدك يعود إلهم. روح حرة داخل جسد غير حر.
And the song also ends with numbers, and it's statistics, it's real statistics of the number of times that women get raped yearly, or that they get sold as sex slaves yearly, and the number of births that are given in a year. And this whole issue was addressed as my body, like my body was raped this amount of times, my body was sold this amount of times.
Very powerful.
It ends with 136 million births a year, and this life comes only from my body. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was really important to try to give out this sense of support, of feminine support, and women supporting each other and feeling as one, because I know that, like I said before, when I said I was missing feminine energy, I know when I got into that feminine energy and I got that support from women, it was completely different than getting that support from men.
لأول مرة بشوف عيوني طريق عيوني 42 200 120 على 136 42 مليون مرة تاجروا في جسدي 200 مليون مرة ختنوني وأخذوا مسؤولية على جسدي 120 مليون مرة اغتصبوا جسدي 136 مليون ولادة بالسنة وهاي الحياة بس من جسدي.
And this is what I was really trying to give out, that, you know, we are women and it's going to be hard for us. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be hard for us. And we are Palestinians and it's going to be hard for us. But the thing is trying to understand yourself and being true to yourself, and to know how to address these issues and how to not let them affect you, and how to own up, and how to really be yourself. Because, you know, you realize, like, I always considered myself as a strong girl or as a strong woman, and I didn't realize how weak I was until I reached this point, because I was always saying, you know, I don't care what people say about me and I'm gonna be myself. But we're always taught to be ourselves. They always tell us be yourself, but at the same time you sit in school with everybody else wearing the same uniform, talking about the same thing. You're listening to the same music. You can't go to the bathroom without raising your hand. You can't use words that the teacher does not allow you to, and at the same time the teacher is always telling you be yourself. And we're always, you know, I'm strong, I'm this, and I talk about feminism, but I'm really fit and I'm looking really beautiful. And I wanted to break that, because that's not what this is about. That's not about being sexy or about being this or about being that. And it's not about, you know, wearing whatever I want. It is, but it's not the main thing of it. The main thing of it is to be able to be a natural human being without being judged by everything you do. And I was really aware of that. And because I started doing music, and because I started receiving more messages, and because my name started getting bigger and bigger. And it wasn't until 2016 that I released the song called Who You Are with Dam that I actually realized how much big of a difference it makes being a woman musician or a musician.
That
and
song
that's
caused
when
a big stir, right? That kind of flipped some things on its head.
Yeah, it did. And for me as well, on a personal level, because that was really the point where I realized the power that I can have and the power that I can use.
أنا ضعيف في ما بجيب صبيان
ثلاثية أحلام مستغني بقدر أقبس نوال السعداوي بقدر أنتقد عقيد الحارة بضل فيمينيست عايش على طبيخ الماما مش عنيف مش هسوي عينيها زرق بس كعريس بفضل عينيها زرق مش محلك تأقرر مش محلك بس هجرب مش محلك لو محلك كنت بحرر يا حرية وعدل لكل طرف هنا يا بنبلش نقتل شباب على شرف عيلة نعم نتحشى فيها بمصر وبنتهضب بالليل بنتاجر فيها في أمريكا وبنغتصبها بالهند وبنرجعها طب تعمل لي ولاد وتربي البيت بنحكي سوبر وومن ولا بنحكي عن انس مش الامرأة الخارقة انا هو الخارق خارق قانون خارق حقوق وحق تعارض
And yeah.
So I think you hit on a really important point too, is that it's not it's one thing to feel this way and to internalize it and to maybe be a woman saying I feel that inside I am a strong woman, but to say that out loud and to say it as a group and to give that allowance to everyone else to vocalize it as well is really empowering, because sometimes the biggest obstacle that you get is from the same group, right? Like sometimes the harshest criticism that women will get is from other women. Sometimes the hardest front that people of color will get is from other people of color, or whatever it is. It's sometimes it's within that same group, and it's mostly about, from what I can see and from my perspective of the things that I've tried to change in my life, it's people that are so afraid of that within themselves that they have to push it away as hard as they can, which makes it even more dangerous sometimes.
I have to say, though, it is true in many cases, but I have to say that, and I talk about this also with like other female friends that I have, and about these criticisms that we receive. And I have to say that 99% of the criticism that I receive is from men and not from women.
Wow.
And it is interesting. I maybe received like 3-4 times messages from women, like really like harsh criticism. And it's really interesting. And I want to just like emphasize on one point of like saying that I thought that I was strong before. And I want to share a story with you that a few years ago we were going to a dam show, and we were sitting in the car, and Tamer took a selfie, and his head was up and his hand was up. He was sitting here and I was sitting here, and I was wearing a tank top. Nothing was really showing, but it was like this, and just this small and the small line here was showing, but barely anything. And this one dude wrote a comment and said, put in Arabic it sounds so harsh, but it's like, cover yourself up, like cover your boobs, in those words.
Gosh.
And for me, that was such a shock. And for me, I was a girl that grew up on, activism and this and that, and I'm strong and we can be whatever we want. But the moment I saw that comment, my heart dropped, and I told Tamer, delete it now, like delete this picture, cannot be out there. And now that I look back at it, I realize what it meant, and I realized that, I was always fighting for it, but I was never owning it. And the moment I started realizing that, I started making myself do things that I'm not usually very comfortable with doing. Like really simple, the most simple things, taking a picture when I'm sitting with, my legs like this, or when I'm wearing short, simple things, and that I usually would think like a lot of times before posting. I started posting these, although I was not comfortable when I hit post, and that helped me a lot to gain confidence. And I reached a point where I can read all of these comments and I have a smile on my face, because it doesn't affect me anymore. And because I realized that whatever this person is writing, the problem is not for me, the problem is the way he sees me, and that's okay. That's really very much okay. But the most important thing is I feel good about myself. And this song was hard for me to release, even though I really believed in doing that, and I really believed in being, natural about it, and just, saying, and a lot of things as well, a lot of things that really make me think, that when we released that, I received a lot of messages saying that I don't have the right to tell women to take off their hijab. And the thing is, I've never in my life said that I think women should take off their hijab, or that I would receive a lot of messages saying that I hate men and I'm always talking shit about men, and that it can be, and I've never said anything about men. I've only said about things about chauvinism and about the chauvinistic system and the patriarchal system. But a lot of people still perceive that I'm telling people to do this or that. The freedom is taking off your clothes, or freedom is, and if you're in a hijab or if you don't leave, then you're not free. And it's not true. It's not true. And what people don't get is that freedom is not black and white. Freedom is to be able to put a hijab and people not say shit about you, and be able to walk in the street in a bikini or without clothes and having people not say shit about you. Mm-hmm. And that's it, because we as women, and I feel that a lot because I'm out there and people can reach me and I receive messages, but every woman, every girl and every old woman goes through that, but it's not emphasized as much. And that was the thing that I really wanted to emphasize, is that, what, khalas, just, let me be. I don't care anymore. This is my armpit hair, this is my arm hair, this is my legs hair, and you know what, fuck it, I'm owning it. Say whatever the fuck you want. I got so tired of it, and it's so important for me that other women realize this as well, and realize that we need to support each other, and we need the support of women, and we need the support of men, and we're all different, and that's so much okay. It's so okay that it's crazy how much it is okay, and just, be, and it's simple as that.
It's very well said. I have a question, and I don't know if this will come off, how this will come off. So I'll just say it and
shoot.
Just know that I mean it in the very best way. But it seems that when men start to tell women to cover themselves up, what they're really telling them is, I can't control myself, so you need to find a way to control my own. I don't even know what it is, right?
Yeah. You mean
my sexual desire right now is overriding my ability to be reasonable right now. So you need to do something about that.
Yes.
Is that?
I do feel like that as well, but I really don't want to say that it's like that, because I don't believe that it's always like that. And I really do believe that a lot of women put that on out of belief and out of true reasons. And I have no right to judge. And I really, that's the whole point, that they can do whatever they want. But it is very funny.
I guess I didn't
live in a world. Yeah.
I didn't mean the tradition of wearing it. I just mean when somebody gets genuinely angry at you, like that photo that was taken, and he's like, cover yourself up.
Yes, because he cannot control. And that's the funny thing, because we grow in a world that, no, women can't be president because they can't control themselves, and they can be, so irrational and envy each other and envy other countries, but they can't do this because they're not powerful. But then when it comes to this, men don't need to cover themselves up because women are strong and they can control themselves, but men are weak, and you need to cover yourself up so that I don't make a mistake, or that I don't feel guilty about it because I can't control myself, and this, it's
or
so
if I lost
it's
control, it's your fault.
It's your fault, of course. And I had the discussion. The crazy thing about it is that we as women start to believe that, because, I had a discussion about that with a group of friends that were very close, and, we hang out a lot, and we hang out in bars, and we have drinks, and we have this, and we have that. And then we started talking a lot about that, and I shared a story that we feel they asked me. That's the funny thing as well. We started talking about Jasadikum, the same song. And one of the first questions that they asked, but why did you do that song? You must have been through something. to go that. Did you go through anything? And it was like this feeling of like, I have to prove that something bad happened to me, or that one specific person is very bad that did something to me in order for me to feel that, like totally ignoring like the things that we started talking. I shared with them a story also that I was once in a place, and this old man, I was in a market, and this 70 or 80-year-old man in the market just looked at me and called me a slut, and I froze in place. I just froze, and the first thing that I did was look at myself and try to think what I was wearing, and if I'm not covered, or if I should cover myself up, or try to understand what is the mistake that I did. So he called me like that. I didn't, answer him and say shut up, or I didn't, do anything. I just looked at myself and started thinking of the mistake that I did for him to call me a slut. And that's the thing, that's the whole thing. That sad thing, that even when we are aware of that, and when we are aware of these things, we don't realize how much it still affects us, and how much we still think that this is our problem, and how much we still tell other women, but they are men, and men will stay men, and boys will stay boys, and you're more rational, just cover yourself up, or just don't laugh out loud in public, or just don't whatever. It's so easy to say that, but we don't even understand how much it's affecting us on a psychological level.
Yeah, I was going to bring something up about that up when you were telling me about the statistics that you read at the end of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, well, yeah, those are just the ones that are reported, right? Those are just the numbers that are reported, and there's so much that goes unsaid because of the very thing that you're talking about. Is, well, it must have been something that I did. It must have been the way that I was dressed.
Yes.
Well, he's a man, and he has a man's needs, and that's just the way it is, and I'm here to service that, or to, if I'm a victim of that, it's something that I pulled down rather than where the responsibility really lies. And so the numbers that you're reading have to be astronomically low.
Yeah, it's true. So sad, but yes, it's true. And also, yeah.
My wife and I were having a conversation a few months ago about how I personally, I don't know if she has more, but I personally don't have any of my close acquaintance female friends that have not been sexually assaulted. Not one.
There's no woman on earth that has not been sexually assaulted. I want to share with you another story. So one of the guys that I was having the conversation with, that I told you about, his mom and his sister are both wearing hijab. And when he first heard the song, he shared with me that when he first heard the song, he really liked it at the beginning. But when I reached the point that I started saying, take your hands away, these breasts are mine, spare me your comments, this extra kilos are mine. He told me that he felt that it was too much, like I was being aggressive, or I'm just, being too much about it. And come on, it doesn't need to be like that.
ضب عيونك هذا النهد إلي، ضب إيديك هذا الفخذ إلي، ضب ملاحظاتك شعر الإيدين وشعر تحت الأباط بس إلي.
The thing is that he put the song again, and his mother and his sister were listening to it as well. Mm-hmm. And he looked at them when they were listening to it, and they had tears in their eyes, and they were very moved about it. And they both have hijab on now. I'm emphasizing on that point, because we usually, when we address these issues, we say, yeah, but if you don't act like a slut, you won't be harassed, or if you don't wear those shirts, you won't be harassed, and if you this and that, you won't be harassed. But the fact that two women in hijab felt so connected to the song, this proves so much. And then he told me that as a man, I realized that there are so many things that I don't understand and that I don't realize. And the thing that he felt that was so very extreme, they both felt so connected to, and that was the same point that they had goosebumps, or whatever, or that they felt that this was the point that they felt with the most. And that only proves so much that it doesn't matter how you're acting, and it doesn't matter what you are wearing, and it just doesn't matter. Every person, every woman on this planet has been harassed, probably more than once, but at least once, either verbally or either physically. And that's, I have no doubt about that. As men and as women, we ignore it, and we either don't want to believe it, or we either want someone to prove it to us, or we either would not just, don't, in Arabic we say, don't hang out your dirty laundry. And we just don't want to do that. We don't want to talk about the dirty stuff that is happening, and we don't want to face these dirty stuff that were happening because, I don't know, for so many reasons. And it's crazy that these things are happening and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's another thing that I would love to add, that I also think is very important. That when these things happen, or that when we experience these things, a lot of times we treat ourselves as victims. And I think that's a very bad thing to do. And it shouldn't be true, because we should not treat ourselves as victims, and we should not look at this as victims, and we should not say, I'm a victim of, because it's not about, the thing is, it's going to be hard for me to really, I think, explain this, but I think a lot of times we put that image on us and we treat ourselves as such, and that puts us in a positions of the weak, and we
You're
treat
assigning
ourselves
shame to yourself.
Yes, you're assigning shame to yourself, and you're treating yourself. Yes, exactly. And you shouldn't be ashamed of that, and you shouldn't feel that you are weak about that. And I know it's so hard, just out of experience, it's so hard to do the switch, and it's so hard to not think of yourself as the victim. But the main thing is that victim in your head, it puts you in a weak point, and it shouldn't be like that. We should talk about these things, but not victimize ourselves. We should not allow ourselves to be in that positions, because we are not victims. We are put in a world, and I can say that on so many aspects about my life, and especially about being a Palestinian, especially because of that, especially because of about being a woman, a female Palestinian. And because, we grew up in a place that I wouldn't allow myself to talk in my songs about anything other than politics until a while ago. And I wouldn't allow myself to express my true feelings, because I felt that I need to do this and that and that. And I would always put myself in the place of, we're being killed, and we are being this and we are being that. And it's true, but the way that you react to it, and the way you put it, and the way you think about it has so much difference. And we're not victims. This is not all we are. This is not our whole life. It's a very big part of it, and it's something that we need to correct, and we need to work on, and we need to do it, and we need to stop treating ourselves as victims, because it's not true.
It's something that is, but it should not define.
It shouldn't be defined like that, because it's, what I'm trying to say is, it makes a lot of difference when you victimize yourself in a situation, and then it changes the way that you react to this situation. And when you're victimized, when you put yourself as a victim, you go on about it from a weak point of view. It shouldn't be like, you shouldn't feel sorry for yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. You shouldn't feel sorry for yourself that these things happen, because these things happen, and a lot of shit happens in every aspect of our lives. But don't put yourself in a weak spot, because this thing, all of these things that are happening to us, is what makes us stronger, is what makes us understand how to deal with the situations.
When
it's treating ourselves as victims. Sorry, I'm going back to that, but it's treating ourselves as victims. Don't treat yourself as a victim.
Yeah. That's what the point that I was going to try to make, is that it matters first how we have to change the way that we consider ourselves first, rather than be like, put that on other people to give us the validation. We have to validate ourselves firstly, or it doesn't matter how many thousands, hundreds of millions of people validate us, and if in the beginning we haven't validated ourselves in that way, then and then people will follow suit. That you say, this is how I am, this is what I am, this is how I define myself. With practice, then other people will start to feel the same way about it.
Yeah.
Sort of like what you said about the and I think it's brilliant that he had enough insight about himself to absorb that moment with his mother and his sister, to realize that it wasn't just them, but that it was something within him that he didn't understand the world around him in that way, and was able to see it through the lens of his mother and his sister. It's brilliant. Yeah, so I showed this video in my film class that I teach. I teach film in high school, and I very much push kids to stop thinking in traditional ways about women's roles in film, especially because if things are going to change, it's going to change with you guys. It's going to change with how you write for women. It's going to change when women start writing for women rather than writing for women's roles for men to see.
Yes.
So I brought this up to my film class and talked to them about writing differently for women. And then I showed them your video the other day, and one of the girls in my class said, so is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about women being able to take the leadership role? And I said, yeah, this is one example of that. Before one of the other kids chimed in and said, yeah, but I think everybody should notice that those guys have her back.
Yeah.
And
it's very important.
And it is, because I think, and this doesn't do this to me personally, but I think what may turn a lot of people off towards quote unquote feminism from 60s, 70s, 80s types of almost militant feminism is that it's you guys against us.
Yeah.
And it's women against men, and it's women who don't believe in this against other women. And that's not really that's not what our lives are like, and that's not what any kind of movement should be. It should be something that we're moving together to a better place.
Yeah, I think this is something that we miss a lot, and I think I use the word feminism, and I do still feel something a bit heavy on my heart, because feminism could be described in so many ways and could have a lot of meanings. And feminism is different from the West to the East, and it's different, and it has different meanings, and it has different approaches. And I think that what we are most missing is exactly this: is that we need to have each other's back. And I think a lot of times it's also feminism is misunderstood, and a lot of times we as women, we try to act more like men to be able to get the rights that we want, or to be able to feel equal. And I think we're missing so much about that, because there's a lot of differences between us biologically, between men and women. We're different, but it does not mean that in life we're not equal, or we should not be equal, or that someone is better than someone. And I think having each other's back, feminism is not about women. Feminism is about men and women, and it's about everybody, and it's about having a good society, and it's about having a society that supports and that improves, and that you can always improve. And actually, like I said, like Dam's album Ben Hanomana addresses that a lot. Sometimes it's very clear, and sometimes it's not clear. And one of the songs, it's called Hada Yaday Sitna, which means someone call our lady. So the story behind the song is, when kids are playing in the neighborhood and they start fighting and yelling and all of that, so you call their mothers and tell them, hey, like, your kids are fighting, come pick them up, come, make them behave. And we took that concept and we said, حدا يدعي ستنا آمني, somebody please call Our Lady Amni, which is the mother of Prophet Muhammad, and someone please call Mary, which is the mother of Jesus. Come pick up your grandchildren from the streets because they are fighting and killing each other.
That's
so
brilliant.
Please come, you know, and I really love that, and I really felt that, you know, we need that. We are so disconnected from our emotions. We are so disconnected from our nature as human, you know, and it's also very important to say that this chauvinistic system that we live in is affecting men as much as it's affecting women. And yeah, maybe women feel it more physically, but men, that leads to men not being able to express their emotions, not being able to express their feelings, of always feeling that they need to be the man, of always feeling that they need to provide everything, that they need to live into certain standards. They can cry, they can do this and they can do that, and that is not healthy for them, for themselves, and for this society. And I think the thing is not only giving the leadership to women and not only giving the leadership to men, we complete each other. And we need each other to make this place balanced and in a good way. Our energies complete each other. You know, it's not the same thing, but we need each other to be able to move forward. And this is not only an issue of women. And this thing is not against men or against women. It's against a system that we're all very much affected by, in different levels and in different ways, but we're very much affected by that. And we don't talk about that as well enough. We don't talk about how this thing affects men as well, and how the effect on men by this system is also affecting the women. And it's just, you know, it's a loop, and we're not aware of it most of the time. We don't, like, also, like, even people that say that they talk feminism or that they do feminism, they still don't. Like these friends that I had that, you know, they talk about that and they support that and they support all their friends, but they still, when they ask me about Jasadicum, they say, but you must have went through something and you must have been through something very bad. Like they need some sort of, but we don't let ourselves comprehend and understand what we are going through. And we're just building walls and walls and walls and walls, and we're not listening, and we're always trying to, you know, prove ourselves right, and we're always trying to fight, and we're always making everything into a fight. That's a huge problem. We make everything into a fight. We fight for everything, and it's not a war, you know. It's not supposed to be a war, and we take everything into extremes. And we just, you know, I really feel that we're so far from our nature, that we got so, you know, we're not even there anymore, and we need to go back. And we're always talking about, you know, modern societies and how developed they are, but the more modern you get, the more disconnected from your nature that you get, the more you're connected to your phone, the more you're less connected to your emotions. We don't know even, you know, what our body feels. We don't even understand my tummy hurts, and we can't even understand why this hurts, you know. And now all these new studies are telling us, new discovery. Scientists discovered that the body can heal itself. Like, people knew that up until 100 years ago, you know, up until modern society came to life, and we moved forward from that. And I think the more we disconnect from that, the more our brains get so washed and filled with so many shit that we don't know how to deal with these things anymore.
It ultimately weakens us, right? It's so limiting, and like you were saying with the men being able to you know, see women as equals. It's not just that. It's an important part that we have to be able to rely on. Without those connections between each other, we're so much weaker than. And the facade is that people think that they are stronger if they're an uber male, this really chauvinist macho thing, and you're actually 10 times weaker without your female counterparts in your life as being equal.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. What's coming up for you music wise, what is Damn have going? What do you what's going on with you musically coming up that we should be tuned into, or that people can go see, people can reach out and get music? How do we get your music? All those questions.
Okay. Well, first of all, go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you feel like, and listen to Dam's album, because although it's in Arabic, but you can find translations online, mainly in Genius lyrics. You can find that. And because a lot of it is, first of all, I'm very much in love with this album because it's helped me on a personal level as well so much. And musically, I love it. And we're performing with this album. We're working on some new video clips. We have some ideas that I don't want to talk about yet because nothing is final, but we're trying. We have some ideas to do some new things with the songs of the album, but I'm gonna let you know about that as soon we have like a clear plan about it. Okay. Meanwhile, we're gonna record some Kalimi music really soon, which is the women's group. We were actually I was supposed to fly today actually to Berlin to record it, but coronavirus and crazy world. So yeah,
it's gonna be an interesting year.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I was supposed to do that, but we postponed it until things relax a little bit. And meanwhile, I'm writing a lot of music. I'm writing a lot of new songs for my solo project, a lot of new interesting things. I've just released a song with an amazing rapper called Synaptic. We just released it 3 days ago, and it's actually going really well. I'm so happy about that. Like, we reached like 120K in 2 days.
حطيتك جوا بيتي خبيتك جوا ليلي وغطيتك بالغيم صليتك كأنك ديني وعملتك سفيني وقطعتك محب عطيتك كل روحي كل جروحي كيف بتتركيني هيك خلي كل سطوري تطفح بمخزوني وتخرج اللي كان.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And that's it. I'm mainly inspired to and writing a lot of new material at the moment, which I can hopefully soon announce releases.
I know we've been talking hip hop a lot, but you play acoustic guitar and do stand-up solo shows and do you have performances, non-hip hop performances coming up?
Yeah, definitely. I just started doing hip hop when I joined Dam. I was never a rapper, which is funny because I mostly know for my role in Dam, and I'm usually portrayed as a rapper, but I don't even consider myself a rapper. But I mainly do, so with Kalimi, it's a fusion of different genres because we each do a very different style of music. One is electronic, one is hip hop, one is rock and roll, and we sort of combined it into a fusion sort of sound. And in my solo project, I combine a lot of Arabic influences with jazz influences in a sort of like a rockish, popish kind of sound. And then I do hip hop with them. But I've been doing very different styles since I started singing. I started with a reggae band, and then I moved to like more hip hop, to more world music, and started doing hip hop. And at the same time, I was studying guitar and all of that, and doing my own thing. And so it's kind of an interesting combination of everything. And I don't know how to put it in a genre, but I'm just experiencing and having fun and trying to find sounds that I like.
I think that should be a new genre, experiencing.
yeah, I agree. I actually agree. That would very much also make this question easier. Oh, what style of music do you do? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm experiencing.
Okay, we just coined the new phrase. We're experiencing artists.
Yes, definitely.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
وهاي العيون إلي. لأول مرة بشوف عيوني طريق عيوني. 42 200 120 على 136. 42 مليون مرة تاجروا في جسدي. 200 مليون مرة ختنوني وأخذوا مسؤولية على جسدي. 120 مليون مرة اغتصبوا جسدي. 136 مليون ولادة بالسنة، وهاي الحياة بس من جسدي.